Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do a huge book haul for you guys. This is every book that I've bought during quarantine thus far. It's been 6 months and I was really good. I didn't buy anything in March and April. I only really started buying books in May when it was around my birthday, and I was feeling really done with school and just everything was finals and I was just really stressed. So your girl stress bought some books, okay? Don't judge me. We all did it, I'm sure. But this is the books that I bought in May. So first I got Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, which I read immediately. I loved it so much. It's a short story collection, all kind of different feminist stories, different interpretations of kind of things that happened in her life or in the lives of other women around her. It's really, really interesting. I believe I gave this 5 stars. I was sitting and read it like all at once because it was just amazing. I've heard so many amazing things about her. She's also won the National Book Award or she was a finalist for this book as well. So I really, really enjoyed this book and I would highly recommend it if you're into short stories or feminist stories or anything like that. So that was the first book I bought. Then I ended up going to do curbside pickup at a local bookshop of mine, and I ended up getting A Woman Looking at Men, Looking at Women by Siri Hustvedt. I think that's how you pronounce it. I have not picked this one up yet. It is a giant book. It is, gosh, like 500 pages, and this is something I really want to read, but it's not something that I started immediately, and I don't have any plans on starting it, but I do definitely want to read this soon. Then I got Upstream by Mary Oliver. I am, let's see, about 70 pages into this. I didn't end up finishing it when I started it because I had like so many other books I was reading for different things. But this is a essay collection by Mary Oliver, who is typically known for her poetry. And she's a poet that I really, really love. I have some poetry collections by her. And her essays are kind of about nature and reflection and all of those kind of things. And it's something that really interested me, so I went ahead and picked this one up. Then my best friend actually got me a copy of Normal People by Sally Rooney because we had read this together for a book club, and I really, really loved the UK edition, the cover. I don't really love the US cover, so she happened to be in England right before quarantine, and she ended up picking this up for me. And she also picked up Conversations with Friends for me in the UK edition for us to also read together. So I haven't read this one, but I have read Normal People, which I really, really enjoyed. Then I ended up picking up Birds Art Life, which is a kind of memoir, but creative kind of manifesto, I would say. It has a lot of photos and artwork throughout. As you can see, there's some artwork. It's just a beautiful, beautiful cover, beautiful book. And this is a book that I read on audio probably in like February on one of my commutes to school. And I just had to own this book because it made such a huge impact on my creativity and my writing. And it was just such a powerful book. So I ended up picking this one up. Ooh, got quite the stack going on back here. So then I have In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. So I finished reading her other book, her collection of short stories, and then immediately got this book because this is her memoir, and it is an absolutely fantastic book. As soon as I got it, I read it because it is just fantastic. It's written in a series of like different vignettes about the dream house as both a physical place and as a concept, a construct in her mind. And it's such a beautiful book. It's so well written and just so inventive that I just absolutely adore this. I can't wait for her to publish something else. I'm so excited about it. Then I picked up Entangled Life by Meryl Sheldrake, and I have not read this book. It is also a giant nonfiction book. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. It's about fungi, and I have studied mushrooms and fungi for a long time. I did a huge project on it when I was a kid. It was one of the topics in my homeschooling life that I just spent a lot of time and effort studying. So this is a book that I'm really interested in reading to kind of further that study, but I haven't started it yet. And then I have the most exciting book that I got in May for sure, which is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a signed first edition, which I was so unbelievably excited about. There's her signature. It's so beautiful. And the cover of this is just absolutely gorgeous. The dust jacket is beautiful, but the hardcover is just absolutely gorgeous. It's different on either side, and this is a book that I was so excited to get because I love the Poet-X and I love her other book, With the Fire on High, and I was just a huge fan of the style. This is all written in verse. It's about these two sisters who don't realize they're sisters until their father ends up on a plane crash, and the sisters live in different countries. So then they end up finding that out and meeting each other, and it is such a powerfully written book and just an absolutely beautiful book. As soon as I received this in the mail, I immediately read it in like a sitting. So I would definitely recommend this book. But those are all the books that I read in May. So moving on to June, I ended up not buying a whole lot in June, which is probably for the best considering how many things I bought in May. But I ended up getting March Sisters, which is kind of a collection of ideas on Little Women from different authors, one of the authors being Carmen Maria Machado. So of course I had to get this book because I love her as an author, and I wanted to see her interpretation of Little Women. I have not read this book. It is a very cute, very small book. The end papers are just like absolutely gorgeous. The cover is gorgeous, and I'm really interested in this, but I have not started it. Then I ended up getting Women Talking by Miriam Towes. I believe it says Towes. And this was just something that I picked up at Target with my mom because we were kind of interested in the idea of, I believe it's a Mennonite, group of women that this is about. I don't know a whole lot about this, so I'm not going to explain it, but it was something that my mom and I were interested in, and neither of us have read it yet. So yeah, I guess it's a book haul, so haven't read many of these books. This is Cat Person and Other Stories by Kristen Roupenian, and I absolutely loved this short story collection. I read it as soon as I got it. It is a very odd collection of different kinds of stories. It's kind of all over the place. It's not like, there isn't really a central theme. It's very like mixed. But it is a modern short story collection which examines a lot of different social constructs and kind of things in society that we don't think about enough that we should. So I really, really enjoyed this, and it was a great pairing with Her Body and Other Parties because I believe Carmen Maria Machado and Kristen Roupenian are friends. So it was really interesting to read those back to back as well. And the last book I got in June is Bibliophile, an illustrated miscellany, I believe that's how you say it. And this is a book that's just full of bookish things. It has like book covers that were made into movies, quizzes, just like collections of different books and things. And then there's these lists of each genre and like all the books that they recommend in the genre. So it's just a really nice book to have kind of as a reference guide if you are recommending books to people or looking for books yourself. It was really interesting to go through this and see all the recommendations they had. And it's also just absolutely beautiful on your shelf. So those are all the books I got in June. So moving on to July. July was the reading rush that I participated in, which I have a vlog up if you want to check that out. But I ended up getting a couple of books related to that, as well as completely diving into tarot and astrology. I ended up getting several books about that. That was the month that I really dove into that. I got a tarot deck and I was super interested in that. So the first book I ended up getting is Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. And this was one that I read for the reading rush, and oh my goodness, this book drew me in and kept me interested the entire time. It was such an interesting book. It's about this woman who is, I believe, does it say how old she is? She's like, I believe like around 24, and she's trying to figure out what to do with her life. And she ends up babysitting for this kind of wealthier family, this wealthier white family. She's a black woman. And it's about kind of the tensions that she faces with that, and the kind of performative allyship that a lot of white people can have, which was such an interesting topic. And this kind of coincided with, you know, all of the things that were happening with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything. So it was really interesting to get a literary perspective of that. So I really, really enjoyed this book and highly recommend it. So next, I picked up Girls and Sex, Navigating the Complicated New Landscape by Peggy Orenstein, and I know absolutely nothing about this book except for the title, and it sounded really interesting to me, and I have not read it yet, but I've been really into nonfiction, especially feminist nonfiction or nonfiction about just generally growing up as a girl in society, so this is going to be really interesting to read. Then I picked up Twisted, The Tangled History of Black Hair Culture by Emma Dabiri, and this is just a book that I thought sounded really interesting. For some reason, I was really, really interested in the history of hair and what it means culturally, and this kind of fit the bill exactly when I was at Barnes & Noble, so I'm really excited to read this. At some point, I will read this. Isn't that kind of the whole point of a book haul, though? I don't know. Then I got Homesick for Another World by Ottessa Moshfegh. I've read another book by Ottessa Moshfegh recently, and this is actually a short story collection by her, and I really enjoyed the first one I read, so I'm really excited to get into this. I just haven't gotten a chance to yet. But the cover is really, really interesting. I'm excited to see what this is all about. Then I got Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. This is an essay and speech collection by Audre Lorde. This I read for the Reading Rush. It fit a couple of the prompts, and I really love Audre Lorde's poetry, so I wanted to give this a try. And I ended up not entirely finishing. I got maybe like 3/4 of the way through, but I do want to finish this as well. It was very, very interesting. And then I got a whole bunch of books about tarot and astrology. Ooh, that's heavy. So this is all the books that I got about tarot and astrology. I won't go into them in too much detail, but I got Modern Tarot by Michelle T, which is kind of a modern interpretation of the tarot deck, the tarot, and it has very like modern illustrations and interpretations, which is really helpful. Then I got Tarot Spreads, which is just literally a book of different spreads that you can do with your tarot deck. I got The Astrology of You and Me, How to Understand and Improve Every Relationship in Your Life. So this has really been helpful to look through and try to identify how I can better my relationships. And this one is Astrology, Using the Wisdom in Your Everyday Life by Carol Taylor. And this is just a general, very colorful, beautiful outline of astrology. So those are all the books that I got in July. All right, so moving right along to August, I ended up getting quite a lot of things in August, but to be fair, I went to a used bookshop in August and the things there were very cheap, so I won't get too mad about it. So I ended up with Choice Words, Writers on Abortion, edited by Annie Finch. This is just a compilation of different writings related to abortion, and this is a topic that I am very passionate about and interested in, and I want to learn more about. So I think this will be a really good place to get started on, you know, kind of anecdotal information, factual information, all of that about abortion. So excited to read this. And then I ended up getting Before the Coffee Gets Cold by, I cannot pronounce that name and I don't want to butcher it, so that is who it's by. And this is a translated Japanese work of fiction that Ariel Bissett had purchased and was, you know, always talking about, so I ended up getting it. It is supposedly about this coffee shop that you buy a coffee and you have to, you kind of get like transported into this other world and have to do a bunch of things and you have to return before the coffee gets cold. So it sounds really interesting and I'm really excited to get into it. I just have not had a chance yet. So then I picked up An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, which is a New York Times bestseller. It's a really popular book. I know almost nothing about it, but it was kind of an impulse buy because when I read the excerpt, it sounded really interesting, and it was on the shelf, and it looked pretty, and I wanted it. So there you go. Then I was very excited to pick up A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green. This is a behemoth of a book, but this is the sequel to An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, which was one of my favorite recent reads. I love that one so much. I have gotten about 100 pages into this and have not been able to finish it because I'm currently in school and I'm reading a lot because I'm an English major. So this has not gotten done, but it is a book that I'm really excited to finish and excited to see kind of how the overall story wraps up. So then the things that I got at the used bookstore. I found The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris, which is a book that I've been wanting to pick up for a while, but probably won't read for a while now because I'm taking a Holocaust literature course, and I'm about up to here with all of the dark themes and all of that, so I might have to wait to read this one, but I am excited to eventually. Then I got The Bookshop by Penelope Fitzgerald, which is a book I've never heard of before. It is from the 50s, and it looked incredibly cute. The cover is adorable and just really, really kind of a fun, atmospheric kind of read, so I'm excited to get into that. Then I found Tales of Burning Love by Louise Erdrich, and I have to say I didn't even really look at what this was about because it was a signed copy. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It was a signed copy, and Louise Erdrich is absolutely amazing. I remember loving her children's stories as a kid, and I really wanted to give one of her adult novels a try. So when I found a signed copy at the used bookstore, I was like, yes, absolutely. So then, finally, the last book I got in August was The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck in this really, really beautiful edition. I have East of Eden in this same edition, and I wanted to grow that collection. I really like John Steinbeck. I really love The Grapes of Wrath, so I got this copy for $5. Yay! So those are the books I got in August. So I'm coming in with a little interstitial category, and that is the Wings of Fire series, which I bought throughout August and September, or the first couple of books in the series at least. This is a series that my boyfriend and I are buddy reading because he was really, really into it and tried to explain the plot of the first book, and I was like, you're losing me, why don't I just read it so I can talk to you about it? So that started with The Dragonette Prophecy by T.T. Sutherland. This is book 1. And then I ended up with book 2, The Lost Heir, book 3, The Hidden Kingdom, book 4, which I'm currently reading, which is The Dark Secret, book 5, The Brightest Night, and that is the first arc of the series. Then I also ended up with Darkstalker, which is a Legends book in the series. This is kind of an adjacent story to the novels. And I also ended up with the Wings of Fire graphic novel for book 3, which is absolutely stunning. So those are all the books that I got in that category. That is nowhere near the entirety of the series, but I'm trying not to buy them all at once. Alright, so we're almost done. Moving into September, I bought some books for school in September. So pulling those out first, let's see. Most of them are actually books for school. So the first one I got was Frankenstein, the 1818 text by Mary Shelley, which is just a gorgeous, gorgeous edition. It's fully annotated at this point because I've finished it for class, but I'm taking an entire class on the history and the, I guess, how Frankenstein has been perpetuated throughout our culture, how prevalent it is in our society right now. It has been for, 200 years. So this was really interesting to read, but I picked that one up in September. And then I also got Mary and the Wrongs of Women by Mary Wollstonecraft, which is just a little tiny little book, which I also read for the Frankenstein class. And I also got Caleb Williams by William Godwin, which was also for the same class. And yeah, those are the 3 that I got for that class. And then I picked up, let's see, these 2 were for my creative nonfiction class, which is kind of a memoir writing and writing about your life kind of class. I picked up Bluets by Maggie Nelson, which we haven't read yet, and I've also picked up Intimations by Zadie Smith, which is a essay collection about coronavirus, about quarantine, the first few months of quarantine. So I'm super, super excited to read that. And then books that I got just for me, I got The Unchangeable Spots of Leopards by Christopher Jansma. And Christopher Jansma is my teacher, my professor of my creative nonfiction class. And he is a published author of several books and different things at this point. So I really wanted to read some of his writing. The cover is really interesting, and I'm really excited to get into this. Then I got a book that I've been wanting to get for a while. This is Mothers by Chris Power. This is a short story collection that is just really small and cute. And I know not a whole lot about this, but I was really excited about it. I've heard great things about it. I'm excited to get into that. And then this was totally an impulse buy because I went to a local bookshop that I haven't been able to go to in a very long time, and I was able to go in. They have browsing appointments, which is awesome, and I found this like tiny little cute novel, which is Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss, and it is just the cutest little novel, and the premise of it sounded super, super interesting. So those are all the books that I got in September. Alright, so considering that it is mid-October, I'm not going to go into things that I got in October, but those are all the things that I have bought so far in quarantine. I hope you enjoyed this very long haul. My wallet is yelling at me. I'm just realizing how many books I bought, but hey, it makes me happy. I've been doing lots of reading, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.